state's possibility that we haven't mentioned, is that the government doesn't have UFOs and they don't know anything, therefore can't give you any information about it. That is the other possibility that we haven't talked about, right? So that's something you have to consider.
It's hard to imagine when you looked at I didn't show the whited out NSA UFO document.
Right.
Got 160 pages. A little note, whiteout was used, and all you can read on a page is one sentence per page. And they call them UFO documents, Mike. And these are all old, before 1980.
Right, but we don't know what they said because they're in fact whited out. So we can only make assumptions and assume what content they might contain. It could be just mundane things, military things that they don't want you to know, as you were saying before, right?
Why are they filed under UFOs?
I don't know, and even if it is, even if a document has a government stamp on it, that doesn't mean that the contents of that document are necessarily true.
I don't think they should call it national security. It should be called national insecurity.
No such agency.
That's what I think.
No such agency. I think
That's what NSA is.
Yeah, exactly.
Never says anything.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I guess my question was, and I'd first like to comment, was it Ralph?
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to congratulate him on his honesty, because if you listen to what Ralph said, he gave you a story about the lights he saw, and then he stated that he did not know what it was. And that's important, because there's a difference between a UFO and a flying saucer. When you say UFO, that's unidentified, I don't know what it is,
No
right?
question.
But Chris was sometimes using it interchangeably with flying saucer. And flying saucer kind of suggests that it's an intelligence, it's
Yeah,
made,
right.
So you have to be careful in that sense.
I usually don't actually, but I'll
It's
tell
easy.
you, in this case,
Since in this case, there are documents that actually suggest diameter 60 feet across, you know, the disc-shaped thing, and it's a
Right.
term. I'll be honest, and I think Stan knows this, he often uses it. I don't like the term, and that's one of the reasons I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't even like flying, because
And-
the word
and-
flying
and-
suggests that, because clouds don't fly. You can't, you don't refer to a cloud as flying, right?
Not sure.
No.
But that kind of crept in because, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to apologize for it. I usually
that's
don't.
okay. No,
I
I'm
usually
just
don't
saying
use
that
it. That's why I did
It's
use
good
it.
to make that.
That's why I use it as an adjective. I don't want you to think about point of origin or whatever.
Right.
I have some theories about that, and just clear that and try to be brief. I'm not sure that about. You know what? It's hard to imagine. I don't. You know, I don't care anymore. There was a time it used to keep me awake at night. Like, point of origin, what is this? Where do they come from? I don't know what happens, but I'm this guy that goes in and like I'm like Columbo, you know, like the detective stumbling around, and I get at it. It's not a game. I think it's very important, right? But I get so much to do. I leave that to greater minds than mine to figure where these things come from, what they're doing, what's their mission, point of origin. I'm not going to solve that. But you know what? I thought I'd never stop thinking about it. Now I don't know. I need to get the door off.
Exactly, and I agree.
Yeah.
And that's leads to my question, is that for me, my stance is that these are not extraterrestrial spacecraft, and that's a very falsifiable stance, because you can prove tomorrow with the door that I'm wrong.
that's right.
How can you, and any of you can answer this, from your side of the argument, is it falsifiable? Is there something that you can say, okay, I'm wrong, I'm going to step away from this, and I'm not going to maintain this position anymore?
I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, when I see these things explained, when I see, I mean, it's just to refer to this case. I mean, obviously, even the people that investigated it for our government at the time, for the air desk, and that was actually their charge. That was their purpose, was to investigate unidentified flying objects at the RCAF. That ended in January the 9th, 1968. At the time of the Shag Harbor incident, the air desk, Squadron Leader William Bain, Morrison, the others there, that was their job, that's what they did. And their belief, their best guess, their working hypothesis was that perhaps this was a UFO event. Again, they're not talking about point of origin, right? But there were papers at that time that went among the ministers that said they thought that these things weren't a threat to national security, and some of the Canadian documents say, but perhaps they exhibited some exotic alien technology that we may be able to access. There was a core of people that did believe, or at least were open to that possibility. Like I say, I stay away from that. Believe it or not, it doesn't interest me. ultimately there has to be some explanation. For me to abandon or accept that there was something dimensional, I would have to see evidence that suggests that. Details and what Ralph suggested and the whole composite of evidence to me seems to preclude it. I can't say it's impossible, but it becomes extremely unlikely when you look at all the data in this case. Very few cases.
You have situations like this that the data is just lacking and it may never be there and you can't fully go one way or another.
You can't ignore the data you have, though. You can't pick and choose.
It remains unexplained. It's not enough to make a solid conclusion like that. So that's a very, that's a very fantastic
I didn't say where they come from. I don't say they are vehicles of extraterrestrial origin.
Right,
I consider one of the light. He does.
He does. That's
he
why
does.
And answer Stanton also.
He's clear. I consider, to me, the other thing is when I look at the phenomena, there's things I think that aren't being looked at. I think that is still one of the most likely things that's open. They could be vehicles of extraterrestrial origin. I look at the phenomena as kind of a blended thing, where I think there is a real physical reality to it. I don't know the nature of where it comes from, how it works. But I also believe there's such a strong psychic component that we can't trust all the data. Many of these cases exhibit controlled witness perception, and that's often not considered when trying to analyze it. And I think there's a pitfall there. But Stanton could be very well right. You know what? I hope he's right. Let me put it like that. That's as close as I can get to him. Do I say these are vehicles? I'm not quite convinced. My God, I'm hoping. But you know what? My mind isn't going to figure it. I sleep at night contributing what I can.
Like, we have hopes and things, and that would be great. That'd be a phenomenal find, but we have to remain objective and dispassionate about what we're observing.
That's what the RCMP's for.
Yeah, okay. I know some of those guys.
Yeah.
Any of them here?
They're a good bunch of guys.
And remember, I stressed the word some when I gave my definitions.
Right.
I didn't say all UFOs are alien spacecraft. I said the evidence indicates that some are. They're the ones I'm interested in. Look, in the medical world, all kinds of drugs are tested. Most of them aren't worth a darn. Some of them will kill you much more than cure you. You're looking for the ones that work. The rest of them don't matter when you get those. Okay, it's the same with flying saucers. And I do use the term. My normal lecture used to be flying saucers are real, now it's flying saucers in science. Because I don't care about UFOs. I care about that subset, which is apparently intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. I further believe that we don't need to know where they come from if we know where they don't come from, which is here. We don't need to know how they operate, only that they behave in ways that we can't duplicate. So, and are they manufactured? Well, the best case is you've got a structure. I don't mean lights in the sky. I don't know what to do with lights in the sky.
Evolution creates structure that seems to be manufactured. In saying that, I mean that nature itself can create a structure or a phenomenon that seems to be manufactured.
Okay, let me add, apparently metallic, things that we would say are built by somebody. Maybe they're rivets, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, the question I'm asking is not, where do these things come from, other than, do they come from here? That leaves a very huge universe if they don't come from here. So I'm not saying where they come from. I'm saying in one case,
you presented a star chart earlier that indicated where trade routes were and things, and that is kind of saying that, isn't it?
I'm saying those guys, who knows how many groups are visiting here? I mean, can you imagine the South American people trying to figure out after Columbus came here, in the next 100 years they were coming from all over the place for different purposes. They spoke different languages, the ships were different. What, those guys back again? I can just see the scouts saying, more ships coming, boss. Where are these guys from? Well, I don't know. The point was they weren't from there. But they didn't know and didn't care particularly where they came from. Only not from here, the other, if you will. So I've got all kinds of questions I'd like answers to. But one cannot discard the notion that some are intelligently controlled based on their behavior. Talk to the pilots. In the best cases, the RB-47 case, for example, and in many other cases where they're clearly responding to the presence of an airplane, let's say. They go faster and faster and faster, make a turn, the airplane follows. They get behind them, scary to the pilots.